Hi everyone. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at beyond just making graphs of our data is how you might manipulate some of our data that we have here and calculate some things that you might find interesting. What you all certainly recognized is that we have really fine-grained data in terms of getting down to every 15 minutes, which is nice. It lets you see those nice trends over the course of the day, but maybe we want to summarize what's going on in a single number, such as how much energy was produced for the whole day. And we would like to be able to do that. And there's some simple ways to do it. There's a couple of different options. So I'm going to start here with just September 1st. One thing you can do is if you drag up and grab all of these numbers for September 1st, that's the energy produced for September 1st. If you look down here in the this part of the screen, you'll see it'll actually give you some things. Count number 96, that's 96 measurements were taken. And here's the sum of all those cells, 47,050. It also gives you an average, which is kind of neat. But you know, there's only going to display this as long as you've selected those things. So it might be nice just to have a daily summary somewhere. So let's try that. I want to say, total for September 1st. And let's try to get this. Here's how to do it. Anytime you want to calculate something in Excel, you've got to first put in an equal sign. For instance, what would happen if I just said 3 plus 4? Well, I just made a cell that says 3 plus 4. But if I have a cell that says equals 3 plus 4, it calculates 7. So you want to calculate something, equals first. I forget that all the time and it's a pain. The next thing is there's a whole bunch of different calculation actions that Excel will recognize, and one of them is sum. And it tells you what sum does, adds all the numbers in a range of cells. Cool. So what do I want to make a sum of? I'm going to put a parentheses around. Here's a couple of just basic things to do here. If you said sum of, I want to have a sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's just going to sum those numbers. So it'll give me 15. If I want to sum what's going on in some cells, some particular column of data, I'm going to have to tell it which data to do. Probably the easiest way to do it is to just, when your little cursor is in the parenthesis here, come over here and just select all the cells we want to include in our sum. I'll drag a box. There it is. Hit enter. Notice before I do that, what's going on up here in my sum toolbar, it says B3 to B194. So that's the indication of which cells it's going to sum up. And there it is, 47,050. The same thing that we had seen when we just dragged them over and it gave us that little, summary. I'm going to copy this because maybe this is my total. I could take the average of those cells. Instead of summing them, we just have average instead. Here you go. And perhaps instead of this is energy produced, right? Let's move this label up. Energy produced. What about energy consumed? I could make a sum for that as well. And it's just the next column over, so it's actually really sweet here is if I just take this little box and go whoop, one over, it automatically recognizes that, oh, you want to do the exact same calculation, but just for the next column over. Excel knows, at least some of the time, it's going to know what you want to do. This is one of those rare instances where if your data are just sort of like side by side, you can kind of shorthand it and just drag this over. So you'll notice something. Over the course of the day, I've produced more energy than I consumed. Cool. That should, of course, correspond to the total kind of excess from the grid. I could find the difference between those two. So I could say, how much more did I produce than I consumed? And that's a bunch. 24,000 868 watt hours of energy, more than I consumed. So I've actually like sold that back to the city. Good deal. Okay, how might we put some other things side by side here? This is total for September 1st. Maybe I want to have a total for September. Well, let's just go to the next day, right? So having to go through this process of selecting all the cells is a little bit pesky, but one thing you could recognize here is that notice that here's where my cells go, B3 to B194. All right, my next day starts at 195. And ends at 385. So 195 to 385. So if I come here and I just say, all right, copy that over. Let's paste that in. You know that those are the limits of my day. There we go. Nice. And you'll notice here, oh boy, we didn't make very much energy here. This day, for whatever reason, we just didn't get a whole lot of electricity to get produced. We still consumed plenty of electricity, about the same as the day before. Maybe no surprise there, but we made a heck of a lot less. And if I actually just copy this whole cell and just paste it in here, it gives me the difference. Negative 17,000, so that's we've had to import a lot of electricity on that day. So you can get your totals relatively straightforwardly if you know the limits. And these things are going to follow a pattern, right? Like my next day is going to start, I guess, at 387 because they like skip a row because of these blank spaces. And we can find what the next day is and go like that. So this is how we can do some calculations like this and calculate these sums, which will be nice for you to have. There are some slick ways that you could generate like a daily summary for every day in the month without going through it bit by bit. It's a little trickier to do, but it can be done, and we can look at some ways to do that if that's something that we really feel so inclined to do. But what's nice is that if you have these daily summaries, you can answer some different questions that are otherwise kind of hard to answer if you just are wading through this much data. So using these sorts of summary things can be pretty handy for us. All right, that's sort of the intro. We'll leave it there for now because we could go deeper, but this should get us started.